What is up, everybody? Ben Gothard here, just coming at you from my cousin Josh's apartment. Thank you, Josh, for the hospitality. Really do appreciate that. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about transparency in business and why it's so important. Transparency to me is probably one of the most important things in business, right? Whether that be transparency with your partners, transparency with the people who you work with, like your employees, your colleagues, transparency with your customers, the people who are buying from you. Transparency to me, it just means that everybody knows what's going on, everybody's okay with what's going on, and then everybody can proceed without any hindrances, right? There's nothing stopping anybody. We're all cool with what's going on. So why is that so important? Why is it so important? Well, if you're going into a business deal, and let's say that you want to partner with somebody and you want to sell a product online, and you don't have your different stipulations all worked out ahead of time, and let's say you and your partner, y'all talked about the idea, but you didn't talk about how much money you're each going to put in, or what work you're going to do, or how you're going to take money out of the business, or what the plan is going to be for the future. If you don't talk about these things and you don't really plan ahead, and you're not open and honest with the people that you're working with, then there's not a potential for, but there's inevitably going to be problems in the future, right? Because business is not always a clean sport. In fact, it's most of the time not. It can get dirty. It can get expensive, it can get difficult, and if you don't have your basically like terms of service and everything just open and transparent and honest, then in my opinion, and again this is only my opinion, you're asking for trouble, right? So how do you make your business more transparent? Well, I think the first and most important thing, and again, this is just my opinion, but the first and most important thing to me is to just be honest about everything from the beginning. Be honest, right? For example, if you're starting a new marketing agency and you're going out and you're trying to get your first client, if you go to your client and you say, hey, client XYZ, you would be my first client, and I'm going to deliver a product to you that involves X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to do it, I'm going to be passionate about it, I'm going to be on call for you, and these are the deliverables that you get, and this is how much it's going to charge. This is how much it's going to cost you. Then you're being upfront, and they know what to expect. The client knows what to expect, right? So back when I started my marketing agency in December of 2014, my model was I will post X number of times per week on social media, and it is going to cost you X number of dollars per month. You pay before the month, and you will get those number of posts, no more, no less. If you want other things, we can talk about that on the side, but that is our main contract. And so, by presenting the terms of the contract, if you will, beforehand, and just being very upfront about what the person on the receiving end can expect, then there's no surprises. They're not expecting to go from 1,000 to 1,000,000 followers on Facebook in a month, right? They're not expecting in a year to quadruple their sales just by posting. You're saying, I'm going to deliver this, and it's going to cost you this. If they don't want it, they don't want it. That's fine, right? One of the interviews that we listened to recently, Project Egg interview number 32 with Coach Terry Levine, she was saying that selling is so important in business. And following up with her a little bit more on that, I asked, well, how do you sell? What is your approach to selling in business? And what she was saying was, and I think it's brilliant, and I truly admire Coach Terry in everything she does, but she was saying selling is not a bad thing. A lot of people think selling is a bad thing, but if you're transparent with your customers and you try to go find the people who need your service and need your product, then selling is a good thing, because you are helping the people who need what you have to offer get access to the things that are going to solve their problems, right? And so, to me, that's a fundamental shift in perspective, right? Because on one side, selling is, let me try to sell as many things as I can and make as much money as I possibly can. Or Coach Terry's method, and one of the accolades that I think is the most impressive from Coach Terry is that she built a business from 0 to 88 million in 6 months. So that is just incredibly powerful. And she was giving this advice after having done so, was to truly help connect the people that need something with the product or services that can solve that need, right? And so if that's your product or service, great, it's a good fit. If it's not your product or service, all right, there's other fish in the sea, you can connect later. And so by being transparent and by being open and honest in business, you can identify whether or not you and your prospect, or you and your partner, or whoever it is that you're communicating with and yourself should be working together. Whether you should be doing business together, whether you should even be, spending your time doing this, because we only have a certain amount of time. And we have a certain amount of time to do business, to be with our families, to go travel, to live life. And we need to be able to prioritize and pick what we want to do. And I think one of the easiest ways to do that is by being transparent and figuring out if this venture or that venture is something that is worth our time, right? So if you're going into a business agreement, right, and this has actually happened to me. I'm not going to mention any names because I'm not like that, but I think just the story and the anecdote, there's something that can be learned from it. But I was conducting an interview, one that will not be published, and I was talking to this gentleman who he wanted to run a webinar with me, and he was saying, okay, we'll go into this 50-50. I'll handle the paid traffic. You can talk about the things that with content creation and repurposing, and we'll run the webinar and so on and so forth. I was like, great. Let's put something in writing. Let's a basic contract. Let's be 100% transparent from the get-go. We'll figure out how much we each need to put in with time requirements, and let's get it laid out so there are no surprises. Right, and that was my biggest thing. I didn't want any surprises. I didn't know him very well, but I was willing to work with him. Right, I'm always open to new ideas. And within 24 hours, he had called back and he had said, "Well, actually, I'm going to need a $5,000 investment from you." And I said, "Okay, well, are we going to go into this 50-50? Like, is it $5,000 on each side?" And he said, "No, it's just on your side because I'm doing this work and my time is valuable." So at that point, it turned me off of the deal, right? Because in my head, I was thinking, why hadn't you told me this before? Where's the transparency that we had agreed upon? Why wouldn't you bring up this factor in the beginning? And so, just from my experience, I know that being on the receiving end of a lack of transparency is not at all professional. It doesn't come across as just a solid, trait of somebody that I want to work with. And I'm very picky about who I do business with, and I would hope that you are too, because reputation is very important, and who you do business with reflects your reputation and definitely impacts your reputation. So, at the end of the day, to me, it comes back to being transparent. If you're going to go into business with somebody and you have this idea of what that's going to look like, they need to know what that idea of it is, and they need to be on board with it too. And of course, they don't need to, right? You can do whatever you want. This is just my opinion. But I would recommend that y'all are both on board with it. Y'all both have a very clear vision of what you want to do, where you want to go, and how you want to go about doing that. And then it's just a matter of executing. Right? It's just a matter of saying, okay, we said we were going to do X, Y, Z, and now on these days, at these times, we're going to do X, Y, Z. We're going to do exactly what we said we were going to do because we're being transparent with each other, right? So, in my life and in my business, I always appreciate transparency, and I always try to be as transparent as possible, right? One of the things that I truly admire in entrepreneurs that I look up to are income reports. right? I love the idea of an income report, right? And somebody who does this very well is Pat Flynn. And on smartpassiveincome.com, if you log on, you can see on his website. If you're on desktop, it's in the top right. On mobile, I'm not exactly sure, but he publishes income reports every single month. You know how much he's making from smart passive income, and he breaks it down by exactly what activity, exactly what program it may be, whether it's affiliate marketing, this site, that site. And I think it's powerful because he's being transparent as to exactly what he's doing, how he's doing it, and what his results are. And I think by showing that, he's not only proving his authority, but he's also being 100% transparent, and I truly admire him for that. So, when it comes to your business and your life, I don't know what the best path is for you, right? I think that really looking at what you're doing and who you're doing it with and whether or not that is transparent could be a useful exercise for you. And as I know that it is for me, right? I always try to, every couple of days or every day, I take stock of what I'm doing and I say, okay, what's actually going on here? And the people that I'm working with, am I being transparent with them? Are they being transparent with me? Are things going just like we said they were going to, right? Like if we say we're going to meet up at 11 a.m. to work, is that actually happening? Or are we just going to say that and not actually go through with it? To me, it's more beneficial to know and to just be real about it and to say, okay, I know what to expect and I know how to deal with that circumstance now because we're both being transparent or more than one person if you're working with a team. So transparency in business in a nutshell is extremely important to me. Again, this is just my opinion. But the more transparent that I find myself in business, the better it ends up. And, I only want to share things that I'm actually doing and that are working. I might share some stuff that isn't working just as a learning lesson, but I only want to contribute positively to you and to your journey, to your life. So I hope this has been helpful, and I will talk to you soon. Let's build a better world together.